Welcome back, Junkies on 106.7 The Fan, coming to you from the Kettler Ice Arena, home of the Washington Capitals. It's EB, Cake, Slurch, and JP, and we're happy to be joined by the head coach of the Washington Capitals, the 77 years of the Washington Capitals, Coach Barry Trotz.
Thanks, guys.
Talking to him about his off-season, and Jason's asking about his kids, and just got me thinking of his kids like speak Russian, and got so much more culture and history than our kids.
Kids are spread out.
I'm talking about taking my kids to the haunted forest on Friday.
Hey, you got to expose them to different things in life, JP. Can't send all of our kids to Russia and Australia like
his son
Coach
is
Trotz.
moving to Russia to teach English to Russian students,
Right.
And his daughter moved to Australia.
Nice.
I mean, their kids are all over the place.
Why does your son have to move to Russia to teach people to speak Russian? You can talk to Kuzi and Obi right here, right here with the Capitals.
Well, that's the plan. He's probably going to work with a couple of our first round pick. We've already talked to our people here about working with him, teaching him English, so we can have a real good transition here.
Yeah.
Was he a hockey player? We were kids hockey players growing up. Did you force them to show up at 5 o'clock in the morning? The thing that amazes me, we all have kids that play sports, but none of them play hockey, right? My nephew plays hockey. But hockey, it's a major family commitment.
It really is. You come out here, and usually we're here at 6, and you got kids that are out here already and skating before school, and it's a big commitment because obviously there's a lot more football fields. Here the ice time's pretty much at a premium. So some of those weird times for the kids, I don't know how the parents do it, but it's a major commitment, and when you're into it, it's not only financial commitment but a time commitment, which is really big.
So, Coach Trotz, I was looking at this little preview. I think it's an AP preview, and I want you to dispute this. This is not me saying this. It says, Capitals. Not much new here. For a half dozen years or so, the Capitals met the season with high expectations, often lived up to them during the regular season, then flopped in the playoffs. Why is this year different than years of the past?
Well, I think we're trying to build a team with the style of play and the type of players that are going to be successful in the playoffs. You look at the team like Chicago Blackhawks. They play a hard style. They also have some skilled players who aren't afraid of the moment. I think our players are learning not to be afraid of the moment. We talked about that last year. Even though we did fail against the Rangers, I think you learned something from failure. I always talk about, for years before the Blackhawks had won the Cup, a team like the Detroit Red Wings were a team that was very good in regular season and had a number of playoff failures, and then all of a sudden you talk about the Red Wings for basically 2 decades as Cup contenders, and there's a learning experience, and we've had enough learning here. I started with the Capitals 20 years ago, so I know. It's tough in this market. You can say what you want, but as sports fans, we turn pretty quick.
No doubt.
And there's no question that we have nothing to give you reason to not turn.
Yeah. Well, you just get jaded or you get cynical, until you get to that next level, you're never going to believe because there is so much potential with this team. You use the word hard. Tell us who are kind of hockey novices what hard means on the ice, because when we've talked to some players, some of your new players like Oshie and Justin Williams, we asked them what their perception of the Capitals was the last few years before you became the head coach, and then last year's team, and they kind of described it as a different team, facing them.
Well, I think one of the things I said to the players last year, and I think we tried to go that route, is that when we played the Capitals, they could skill you to death. And at the end of the day, you came out of the game going, yeah, they're pretty skilled.
Right. They could Alex Semin you to death a few years
exactly.
back.
And
what the
but you can beat them up a little bit?
Well, not really beat them up, but if you really were diligent on being, physically hard on them, and not giving them time and space, they just didn't
like it.
They didn't like it, and they didn't really manage it very well. What I think being hard is hard to play. There's certain moments in the game, certain puck decisions that you have to make to sort of grind it out, and we're willing to do that to win a hockey game. That necessarily wasn't the case in the past. They were in your face a little bit more. I think we're a little more blue collar in some areas with that sort of that white collar skill level. I sort of used that term the other day, and it's sort of sticking right now. But it's a mix of understanding that one of the things that when I came here last year, I'd be on the bench in the first 20 games. The game would be close, and everybody in front of me was nervous. They were nervous about it's a close game.
Right, they're tight.
We're not winning 5-1, and they were nervous. And we learned to understand that, you know, in a tight game, you just play a certain way, the right way. You play a 200-foot game. If you need to finish a check or you need to take a hit to make a play, you do that, and you're going to have success. And by the end of the year, we weren't afraid of those tight games, and that's what you get in the playoffs. And one of the things that I found out interesting last year, when we got to the playoffs, and you were mentioning we haven't had any success in the past, is that everybody kept bringing up, you know, Pat LaFontaine and all these things.
Right, the ghosts of the past.
And Burkowski and Kuznetsov and these guys are coming up to me and going,
What is that?
what are they talking about?
Who is Pat LaFontaine?
Right, I have no idea. So, to me, you know, as sports fans, we hold 10 or 20 years of frustration or what have you. But for players,
they have short memories.
We have short memories, or they don't even know what you're talking
about.
Right,
they've never seen Langway or Gartner
or Ivan LeBray. I grew up with Ivan LeBray. That was my guy.
We're looking at banners of some of the great Capitals of the past, but they've never seen those guys play.
Exactly. So one of my things last year is that we have to make our own history. This group is a different group. It has different dynamics, and we've added some pieces to try to improve that.
So tell us why, you mentioned adding pieces, tell us what TJ Oshie and Justin Williams bring to the team.
Well,
I don't know much about Justin Williams. I've seen TJ play a bunch of times, but literally when you guys signed Williams, I had no idea who he was.
Well, the one thing that TJ brings is just watch him how competitive he is with the skill level that he has. He's probably not the fastest guy, but he works, and his hand skills and his competitive nature create a lot of stuff. And when he's playing with Kuznetsov and Ovechkin, it seems to have a little bit of magic. It's starting to have some magic. That could be a real dynamic line. Justin Williams has been around a long time. He's sort of that under-radar guy who scores the big goals. You look at his point totals in a regular season, very modest, 40-point range every year. And then you look at his point totals on the playoffs, and it's almost a point a game. And that's
comes up big when it matters.
He's a guy that comes up big.
Were you cringing when TJ Oshie got into it with Adam McQuaid from the Bruins a few nights ago? I mean, McQuaid's got a rap sheet of NHL fights like as long as my arm, 43 of them. And here's your new addition, TJ Oshie. Put a nice clean hit on him, but then McQuaid wanted some payback. They're going at it. He's got a shiner under his eye at this point. And I like the quote from Ovi. He said, "I see a couple of good hits in his face," talking about what McQuaid did to Oshie. Were you cringing when that was happening?
I was a little bit because of the size and bulk of Adam McQuaid and his rap sheet, as you say. He knows what he's doing back there.
Right.
But he doesn't get too many guys going after him like that, especially a skill guy of Oshie's stature, and putting him basically through the board. So he took exception. I saw a crew coming over to get in Oshie's face. I was hoping that Oshie would grab him and throw the gloves off right there and go after him. But McQuaid sort of got in there and separated and sort of did that. So you do cringe because here's a top player.
Right.
That's not a very good.
You cringe, but I'm guessing your players are like, wow, look, Oshie's got that edge to him where he's going to go after a guy like that and he's not going to hesitate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sends a lot of positive messages to your bench. You're just hoping for that 30 seconds that there isn't an injury in that or broken hand or something like that.
Right.
But that just shows you his competitive nature.
Joined by Coach Barry Trotz here on the Junkies. So you finished 6-2 in the preseason. Does that mean anything?
No, it really doesn't. I think it's more of a pride and cultural factor. I think it doesn't mean anything in the standings, but in terms of your culture, it does. We said that every time you step on the ice, be it preseason, training camp, regular season, guy come to play, and we want to win the game. And that's something that I think was blown off in the past. Well, that was an exhibition game. We didn't win. It's not blown off anymore. It doesn't do anything for us in the standings, and we could have the opposite record going into the season.
And still be fine, right?
And still be fine, because culturally our focus is on winning hockey games and playing the right way. And I think for the most part we did that in the preseason. We're missing a couple of some big pieces that really drive our team, Orpik and Backstrom. And they are big pieces that drive our team, and they weren't there we'll see what we can do in the regular season.
It sounds like the worst case scenario for Backstrom is coming back possibly by November 1st. What's the latest from him coming back from the off-season hip surgery?
Well, he's been skating, and I've said it all along. I'm going from worst case, and anything that is before that is really gravy for us. So he's skating right now with us, and he's not into the contact yet. But once they allow him to have some contact, I think he's within a week or two of playing. So I'm hoping best case scenario, maybe we lose him for 4 or 5 games. Worst case scenario, I think probably that November 1st date, which has always been the target.
I want to revisit what you talked about, the culture change, getting guys who were white collar to play blue collar, to play hard. How difficult was it getting guys like the Alex Ovechkins and the Nicklas Backstroms to buy into that type of system?
It really wasn't that hard, and I'll tell you why. Is that when I got here, there was a lot of frustration, just as fans have frustration with maybe lack of playoff success. The frustration was in the players. They wanted change. They weren't happy with the way they were playing, what they were doing, how we were operating, and just there wasn't a lot of accountability. So we put the accountability back in, which all my teams I think are pretty accountable. And it wasn't that hard. It was just giving them a plan and holding everybody to a certain standard. And the first 20 games was a little tough because they weren't used to practicing the way we practice. They weren't used to working out the way we work out. They weren't used to a lot of things that were standard, which is a foundation. I think there's champions do more, and we tried to have a championship type of professionalism around the team, which there was, but for whatever reason it sort of slid, and there wasn't a lot of accountability in some areas. So we just held everybody to the fire a little bit.
Coach, you moved on from some fairly iconic players here. You know, Joel Ward had some moments here. Obviously, Mike Green, longtime Cap. And you know, to a lesser extent, Eric Fair and Troy Brouwer, all those guys had moments here with the Caps. What's been the biggest challenge replacing those guys?
Well, people don't realize how much a guy like Troy Brouwer brings to the team, how much one of my favorites, Joel Ward, he started with me, and I recognize all those little things that he does. You know, Mike Green is an exceptional talent who does, you know, has had his mixed reviews here. When he does some of those great things, it's fantastic that very few people can do, and then he does some things that probably angers some people or some fans. We're going to miss all of them. They're good hockey players. Eric Fair got 19 goals last year with even strength. That's a pretty good record to have. And the penalty kill, they're all penalty killers. They're all draw guys. But we really felt that it was time. We need to be a little bit faster, and that was in open the spot for a guy like Tom Wilson. I think Tom Wilson came in here as an 18-year-old tough guy, and has been sort of that fourth line role. Last year and a half, I tried to move him up for touches, as I call them, playing with Ovechkin and people like that, so he doesn't lose that. You know why we drafted him. He was a guy that scored, 25, 30 goals. That's where his projection was as coming out of junior into the pros, being a physical Lucic type of player, if you will. And
must be tough going through life looking like Tom Wilson, by the way.
Yeah,
it's brutal, right?
It really hurts.
Yeah. He's getting in these fights. It's not gonna last.
Yeah.
He's gonna end up like John Erskine.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, no, he's gifted in a few areas.
Yeah.
Just a good-looking guy who's 6'5",
Yeah.
He's 20 years old, and he's already played a couple years in the league.
He'll be old and fat one day.
That's all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, before we let you go, I got to ask you, and you mentioned the historical failures of the franchise, high expectations, just not getting it done. And I don't mean to bring back bad memories, but as a fan, and I'm a casual hockey fan, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I follow the Caps as much as I can. I probably should be a bigger hockey fan considering the industry I'm in, but I want to get in your head a little bit about last year's Ranger series and being up 3-1, and the Rangers come back, and you know how tough it is to close out teams, right?
Yep.
And then being up 1-0 there with a minute and a half left, whatever it was. When you look back at that, first of all, how long did it take you to get over that series? And then when you look back, what could you guys have done differently? Do you replay that Game 7? Do you replay the series? What
you replay. You look back. It's easier to look back at the series when it's done and say what changed, that series, and what would you do different. I don't know if we would do a whole lot different. This is a strange thing, and I don't know if people understand this. if you remember in Game 5, we were up 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
Joel Ward scores a goal, and it got called off. That would have put us up 2-0
Right.
in that game.
Was that a good call, by the way?
That was a bad call. That would have been a goal this year.
Okay.
Coach's challenge. That was a goal.
Of course, it was a bad call. It went against the Capitals, Jason.
Well, I don't remember the sequence.
But anyways, the Rangers. If you remember the rest of the game, they had nothing really going on. Kreider comes down with 1:40 or not, even less than that,
Right.
and throws a puck, and it hits Brooks Orpik in the heel, moves about 6 inches, goes in net, and then they win in overtime. And that sort of changed the series. Game 6, I thought we played okay, and could have won that, but we didn't. Game 7, I thought we played excellent, and we lost. And you look back at the Chicago series against Tampa. There was, I think it was Game 5 in Tampa, and it was Game 5, and Chicago had nothing going on, and they scored 2 quick goals, and one of them was Hossa actually pushed the goalie in the net. That shouldn't have been a goal. It changed the series. The Chicago Blackhawks go on to win a cup, and that's the fine line that playoff hockey. You just need that one break.
Are you saying it's almost like fate, almost?
There's a little bit of that, but I think there's a cultural thing too. Is that once you have a moment like that, you have to take advantage of it. And that was a strange series. I look back, I thought the 3 games that we won against the Rangers, we didn't play that well. And the games that we actually lost, we actually played well but lost. But if we could go back, the one thing I would change is that we had to find a way to score an overtime win. We didn't do that in that Rangers series.
Right.
The last 2 games we ended up losing the series. But those moments, and you asked me how long did it stay with me? It still stays with me.
Forever.
It stays. It doesn't go away. So that's what sort of drives you. I've asked the players. I said, I thought we were really close. I talked to a lot of people who, if we get by that series, I am pretty confident personally that we would have been in the finals. I don't know if we're capable of beating the Hawks yet in that stage, but I think we could have got out of the East, and that's how close it is. And it's those moments. I mean, we saw it in football last night. It cost them a game, a call, a deflected puck. It changes.
Man, it's so hard to win a best of 7, especially against a team like the Rangers.
But once you get through those moments, it seems to elevate you. That's why the Blackhawks seem to be able to do that now, and the Red Wings used to be able to do that. And we're trying to build a culture that's going to be able to do that. And that's why you can't be afraid of those moments. And then you ask me, what is hard? Hard is not being affected by moments, and just keep going on and finding a way to win. So that's what we're trying to do. It's a gift that is in professional sports that you try to cultivate and you try to recognize, and hopefully you get the right people who've done that. Justin Williams is 7 for 7 in Game 7.
I like that.
That's pretty nice.
And
Let's win it in 4. You can put a 7.
Yeah, right.
You can make it easy. Coach Trotz, thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate it. Coach Trotz,
I listen to you guys every morning coming in.
Oh, very
Thank you so
nice.
much.
Very cool. Thank you, buddy.